Now that is what I am talking about. To Your Eternity finally deals with, I think, arguably the most annoying knockers to date, and I wasn't expecting it this episode. I was expecting Fushi to be able to deal with it next episode, as we most likely end this arc and we transition to the last arc of Season 1 anyway. But seriously, to see the teamwork and how they actually managed to defeat this beast, which honestly the edge was given to the knocker, because at first, I actually thought the mole was going to be the way to defeat it, which I thought was so clever, because arguably the least important form in terms of combat, because you can say in terms of exploration, being able to dig even if you are blind is very useful, but the idea that because of that small form, he was actually able to start like gnawing on the connections to basically this creature, to see that immediately get ripped away from him, I was like, there's no way in his current status, because he hasn't gained anything, right? There's no new forms that would really help him in this situation other than Perona's basically physique, because she's good in terms of physical combat. But what can she do against something that's made of essentially all stone? So to actually see the way teamwork happen, because Fushi's been in a mentality that he needs to stay away from people, get back his forms, but stay away from people and become stronger so that he can defeat these creatures. And I never thought it was going to happen in the way that it did. I knew most likely Tonari and her group would play a factor somehow, because she doesn't know what personal space is, she wants to be next to this character, most likely because she wants protection. It just gives me an impression the fact that they are what seems to be orphans, most likely doesn't have a family, probably looks at Fushi as a way of being a shield for them. I didn't watch the preview for next week, so I have no idea what we're going to be focusing on. I imagine her backstory, it would be kind of weird if we didn't learn anything before ending this arc. But to actually see how it was a collaborative effort for the island and using the machinery, holding it captive, and then them making basically explosive arrows, and once Fushi sees that, it doesn't matter if you run out of gunpowder, you can just mass produce it. It's very interesting to see the community teamwork there, because moments prior, they were ready to rip Fushi's head off because Fushi isn't playing by the rules of the land. He doesn't kill in the tournament. He's immortal, so he doesn't have to actually fear things, and it feels like he's basically cheating his way to a victory that he doesn't deserve. So to see the transition of that and just, someone like Tonari getting sucker punched in the face to then seeing that teamwork at the end, it really was night and day and gave you a sense of relief, because when I saw my boy Gugu get removed from the equation, it was bad enough that you took March. I was like, are you seriously going to take Best Boy now too? I didn't think he was getting him back this episode. I thought hopefully by the end of next week, but I wasn't going to be shocked if To Your Eternity said, hey, you're going to lose Gugu as well for another 4 episodes before this anime wraps up. So to actually see the build-up, because Fushi's been a very isolated person in this arc, and to see him try to talk with Best Grandma and her saying, I'm a criminal, leave me be, but him not wanting to give up, is a very interesting dynamic, because someone like Tonari rubs me the wrong way. Do I wish she wasn't a part of this arc? No, I'm glad she's a part of this arc. I'm glad her group's a part of this arc. It's just the personality rubs me the wrong way. It's just personally how I feel. I find her to be a little too overboard, I find her to be too clingy, and if the fact that she grew up in such a brutal environment has shaped her into a much more cold and ruthless person than we're generally used to. But will she serve a purpose for Fushi's growth? Of course. And I think it'll be interesting to see where Fushi and her will leave off before probably parting ways again. Unless they travel together, which wouldn't be shocking to me either, given the fact that I could kind of see them not wanting to stick to that island and sticking to an immortal who wants to basically travel and become stronger. And given the fact that teamwork is kind of the relevant theme of this episode, I wouldn't be shocked if Fushi wants to have teamwork propel him forward. But still, it's interesting because there's so many moments where, you kind of want to slap Tonari yourself because she's saying, oh, I have all this important information. We're trying to have this bonding moment. We're like, oh, we finally found her, and her relevant information was about how fat the captain got. And the fact that Fushi's actually starting to call out bullshit is kind of refreshing, I have to say, because if this was like early Fushi, he would have just like rolled over and accepted, but here he's saying, can you just please stop spouting bullshit for 1 second? And I'm like, hot damn Fushi, you're definitely growing some balls here. When we were fighting the older brother by the looks of it, anyway, I don't know what to call this guy, in the tournament this episode, I wasn't expecting him to have more than like a 1-word sentence in the fight. But actually see them afterwards, because this is Fushi, he refuses to just let people get killed. He's starting to get up the courage to like beat the shit out of people, but he doesn't want to kill. And to see him afterwards and how Fushi promised to take the brother and him away if he wins. While I do expect these two to die, I like how there was that like brief moment of humanity, because we're essentially seeing the absolute worst that humanity has to offer. It's not like we're watching UFC where like at the very least people probably won't die, there'll be refs stopping it beforehand. This is the type of fighting coliseum that if you don't kill the people, spectators will shoot arrows and throw weapons at them. These are despicable opinions and human beings for the most part, but those despicable human beings seemingly can get the job done when a knocker comes on knocking. So I'm not exactly sure what Fushi is going to essentially gain from this other than probably teamwork. But maybe that's the most valuable thing he could earn, because if this episode said anything, is that Fushi by himself probably can't deal with a new knocker every single time it comes towards him. However, if he prepares people around him saying, hey, I have a bad feeling things are gonna happen, let me teach you what I know, this is what I think could work, and he prepares people in the proper positions, maybe that will be kind of his formation going forward as he gains hopefully new weapons and forms going along the way. Because right now, it doesn't really feel like he needs necessarily forms, because now that he has everything back, he has a good arsenal to work from. He has a giant form if he needs to be physically strong, Gugu for fire, he has a little girl that can climb real fast, he has different animals that can work pretty well, maybe grab a bird or two, something like that. But the weapons are probably going to be the big thing for him going forward. The whole reason this worked out was an arsenal of flaming and explosive arrows. So it'll be interesting to see what type of things he'll make and learn along the way, and hopefully maybe he'll study with blacksmiths and things like that to gain even more experience. But I like this episode a lot because I think there's definitely an unreasonable opinion right now in the 2-Year Eternity fandom. There's some pretty big Tighnari fanatics who just love this character and think we're being too harsh by not liking her personally because she had a hard life. Of course she had a hard life, but it doesn't mean you have to like the character on a personal level. It's just, that's how she was shaped. I see probably why she ended up like that, but I mean, comparing to Gugu, to March, to Perona, all these other characters, it's just different. And I think Fushi's opinion of Best Grandma is probably the best example. She was clearly a criminal in her past, but the person we've been interacting with for this entire anime is clearly a different person. And I know Tighnari can become the exact same, but the current version we're interacting with is a little too annoying. But I'm glad she's a part of this arc. It's a very different feeling than anything else, and I think that's the biggest strength of 2-Year Eternity, is every character Fushi interacts with is a vastly different experience, and that's what makes it great. You need the good and the bad in the case of Tighnari, will probably be influenced by the good of Fushi, and Fushi will be influenced by some of the bad of Tighnari, to know that maybe there will become points where bad people do need to get killed, and he needs to take the influence of all the different characters, some very against killing, some for killing, and create a unique mindset that will let him survive in this very dangerous world. I mean, I'm sure next week Grandma's gonna end up dead. I wouldn't be shocked if some of the people in Tighnari's group ends up dead. But it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen, and I'm very excited to see the revelations that will come with probably next arc, which will clearly be 4 episodes, because why would you start and not end something, right? But it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below, your favorite moment, and what do you hope to see with next week's episode, most likely concluding this week's arc. Drop a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.